Welcome back to World Bass Club. I'm Kalani, your host. And wait a minute. Why does he have a bass? He's supposed to be a drummer. He's supposed to be playing percussion. Why is he holding a bass? I'll tell you. This is a talk about how we learn music. And so there will be a takeaway from this. Welcome back. I'm Kalani. This is World Drum Club. And I have a bass because I've owned this bass for a long time. So today I want to talk about how to practice, how we learn music, and how you can improve on whatever it is you want to play. Now, I find myself in a unique position, and that is one of beginner, which I'm super excited about. And I know many of you are beginners on different instruments, bongos, congas, djembe, whatever, cajon. For me, it happens to be bass. I've owned this bass for a long time. I got it years ago, and I just haven't committed myself to learning and practicing. So I'm in beginner mode right now, and it's exciting. But what I want to do right now is talk to you about how we learn, how we can develop some of the things that we need to do as musicians to gain facility so we can play the music we want to play. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Doing whatever it is you dream of doing. So here's a few tips for you about how to get to that dream of musical freedom and agility. So first of all, learning an instrument, you have to keep in mind that learning an instrument is all about familiarity. It's becoming familiar with it, right? There's nothing is hard to do. There's just things that are familiar and unfamiliar, right? There are things that you don't know, you're not familiar with, you don't have a relationship. So I know this sounds a little bit corny, maybe, but what you need to do is think about building a relationship with the instrument, which means you kind of have to go on dates. I know that's weird. But you have to spend time. What my point is you've got to show up, you've got to get together and spend time and get to know one another. Now, one of the ways we do that is just, like when I put this on, I just was like, okay, I can do that, I can do this. I can move my fingers. I don't know what I'm doing. And experiment. And just don't worry about getting it right. Just try to learn about this thing. How does it work? How does it make sound? What are the different things that happen? When I do this, this happens. When I do that, that happens. And don't try to label it. Don't judge it. Just explore like a child. Children are very good at teaching themselves because they try lots of different things. And they're constantly changing direction and exploring from above, from below, from the side, fast, slow, loud, soft. Children do that automatically. What do we do as adults? We wait until somebody tells us what to do. Okay, put your finger on the string like this. Okay, oh, not that one. Oh, sorry. This one, yeah. Okay, now pluck the string, It's very measured, very uptight in a lot of cases. So what you need to do is give yourself permission to explore, become an explorer, become an investigator, become curious about this thing, whatever it is. Try to get to know it. And that's just spending time and exploring. And don't think that, everything you do has to be, quote unquote, the right way, all right? The right way is every way, is exploring. Now, that being said, you do want to spend time investigating what is the tradition. How are people playing this instrument in the common way? Because look, all the bass players in history, and now I count myself as a bass player, as a new bass player, I need to look to them because they've figured it out, right? Just like conga drummers, just like cajon, drum set, whatever you're doing. All these people throughout history have worked it out, right? They've come up with best practices, and we don't want to ignore that. Certainly, we want to gravitate towards those practices. So that involves the other side of this, some of this, which is what is the culture of the instrument? Who are the people who have pushed it forward, who have developed it? What are the good teachings out there? You know, there's lots of videos. Of course, on YouTube, you see all the time now people, 5 things you never want to do. You know, don't do this, never do this on the bass. Always do these. 5 tips for the best bass sound, you know, blah, 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 blah. But those are good things to pursue. So do your research. Of course, you want to listen to people playing bass, get to know who the bass players are, what is their approach, what makes them unique, all that stuff. But that is material that you need to know about, but that's material that you're going to use later once you get some facility. So let's talk about how do we become more comfortable playing an instrument? How do we better familiarize ourselves? And really, it's pretty simple, you guys. It's just repetition. You know, it's the mechanics. So first, of course, I have to learn how to hold the instrument. And then I'm just going to be doing like exercises, right? We call these exercises or etudes, which are musical pieces that are designed to work on a certain technique. They're focused, you know, just up and down the whatever it is. And I'm still learning. I'm very much learning here. Then once you do that kind of nuts and bolts, just, you know, the repetition of a technique, because once you do that, then you can move on to the musical part. But the repetition is all about developing muscle memory. And again, as adults, you know, many of us, many of you are skilled, you're educated, you're successful at a few things in your life, you know, and so you think, oh, I can pick up this instrument and I can just know what to do and then I can do it, right? Wrong. You don't have the muscle memory. The muscle memory is the result of thousands of actions, right? Thousands of times of this, you know, plucking the string, finding the sweet spot, finding the, you know, the motion and getting the consistency and the coordination. Frankly, when you play a string instrument, of course, you've got to pluck the string and then press down the string over here, and that all has to be coordinated, obviously. So there's a lot of muscle memory involved. And again, that's just repetition and time. So you've got to spend time. Look, every musician I know who's successful has spent literally, you guys, hundreds of hours in a practice room or in their bedroom or at home, wherever they practice, just grinding it out. And, you know, it's not like they pick it up, take a few lessons, learn what to do, and then do it. That's not the way it works. It's a skill. A lot of musicians, somebody said that musicians are like micro athletes. And I think that's a good analogy. It takes a lot of repetition. You know, if you're an athlete, you're doing a skill, or maybe you do something like martial arts, you know that it's thousands of times of doing these motions. So that they become automatic and they become smooth and they get wired into your whole body so that when you think about it, it happens. And that's where we want to get with playing a musical instrument. So let's talk a little bit about the context. Now, the point of doing all of these repetitions and developing the muscle memory through what are largely thought of as kind of boring exercises. I don't agree with that. You know, being bored is a subjective experience. So you can be bored or you can not be bored doing the same thing. That's up to you. But I feel like it's exciting because every step along the way is getting me closer to that mountaintop and the 360 view where I can relax and enjoy. Context is the music. What are we doing, right? Why? Why are we spending all this time learning this? Well, you've got to love where you're going. You got to want to go where you're going, which means what's the music that you're trying to play? And that's where practicing can be fun. When I was starting to play drum set back in middle school, I gravitated towards the music that I was listening to. And so I put on records and I played to the records, and I was learning by rote, right? Mimicking things that I heard and saw and basically copying what I could copy. by musicians. And that's another great practice tool. It's a way that motivates us. It guides us musically so that we can start to put together the techniques that we've been learning and contextualize them within a piece of music. So music is the goal, right? It's not just to operate this machine and do things. It's to play music. So along with your practice, you can start to do that right away in a simple way. You can find some music that's, you know, achievable for you, even if it's just, you know, like on bass, if I was... Right. I could just do something like that. Maybe play a blues in different keys. And then in that way, I start to become familiar with the tonality, the way it works, the scales. You know, it's another level of familiarity. And that gets me closer to the musical goal. So contextualization through immersing yourself in the culture of music, whatever music that is for you. Now, of course, learning about the musicians, like in this case, bass players, learning about the bass players will pull, or any players, will pull you into the music that that player is, you know, orbiting, whatever their orbit is, of a certain genre or certain style, certain era, right? If you focus on the player, you're going to immerse yourself in that music as well. So that is a hub and a connecting point to a lot of other things. And hopefully through your musical pursuits, you will discover new music, genres, other musicians, all kinds of stuff. So I recommend that you always learn both within your own music ecosystem, yourself, right? You and the instrument, and also exploring what other people are doing so that your horizons, you know, you expand. You expand your awareness of what's out there, your options, the kind of things that you have at your disposal, the music that you could enjoy if you knew about it. And if you don't follow the players into their world, you may not experience all of that richness that is waiting for you out there. So that's where we can talk about traditions, styles. You know, that's part of learning. It's not part of learning the instrument, but it's part of becoming a musician of that instrument, is being able to identify who are the, you know, the main people. And I'm not saying that you need to know everybody. You know, I'm not going to study every bass player. But if, you know, you want to be able to name at least 5, 6, 7, or 10 main players of the instrument and kind of understand who they are, what they were doing, what made them unique. You know, I mean, if you're going to take up an instrument, that's part of the homework, I think. Just like if you're playing congas, you need to know a few conga players, all right? That's typical, that's common, that should go without saying, but I just said it. So the other thing, and I'll just leave you with this, my last tip for you guys, is always when you're practicing, try to just explore a little bit when you practice. And what I mean by that is once you're done with the, you know, once you're done doing the technical stuff, and even playing it in a style, right? Playing a tune in a different style, learning a technique. Once you're done with all that, spend a little time just noodling around, right? Messing around, trying different things, experimenting. And, you know, maybe, let's see. Trying stuff out, because that's also going to give you a more intimate understanding of the instrument, because you're going to be, again, walking outside of the little gated area where you're practicing and that's everything's happening. You go outside of that and now you've got a different viewpoint, a different perspective, and you might just discover, you know, something new. You're probably not going to invent something that is totally new, but you're going to find out new things for yourself. And the very last thing is that every instrument will teach you how to play it, but you need to be open to the feedback that that instrument is giving you. In other words, you need to be listening, you need to be paying attention, so that as you're playing, you are an observer. You're not only the doer, right, the player, but you're also the audience member. You're listening and observing to yourself, to the instrument, and you're getting the feedback of the results of your actions. What is the effect of the action that I just did? Let me register that. I'm going to listen to that. And that is the instrument guiding you towards wherever you want to go. And maybe you want to go in this direction, or maybe you want to go in that direction. But if you're not listening, if you're not really paying attention, if you're only doing the action and then you're moving on to the next action and you're not paying attention to the sound and the effect, you're not going to get that information. You're not going to be able to use that feedback. And that feedback is super important. That's part of being an artist, and that really is part of being a musician. A musician is somebody who uses the creative environment and exists within the creative environment. So music making, you know, yes, is it technical? Sure. Is it analytical? Sure. Is it intellectual? Sure. But it's also an art form, and it's also a humanity. Music is a humanity. It's, you know, it's a study and practice of the human experience. So it does involve many aspects that you can apply, from the analytical, intellectual to the emotional, cultural, sacred, spiritual, etc. All right, so I recommend that you do all those things. You don't have to do them all every single time you pick up the instrument, but what you need to do now is do everything I just said and do it a couple times a day if you can. All right, so if you could spend minimum, if you want to improve on a regular rate, you know, typical rate, I would say you got to put in at least 30 minutes twice a day, minimum, you guys. Most musicians I know, you know, when I was in college, we'd go practice in the morning, we'd practice in the afternoon, we'd go home and eat, we'd come back at night. I mean, people were practicing 6, 7, 8 hours a day, in addition to doing all of their classes and everything else, and rehearsing in ensembles and performing and hanging out. It's a lot. Not that you need to do all that. I know many of you are not, you know, necessarily, your goal is not necessarily to become a professional musician, but if you want to become a musician and enjoy yourself, you do need to put in a certain amount of time up front, and then you can taper that off later and just relax and have fun and play. But in the beginning, I would say, you know, if you can do 3 hours a day, that would be awesome. Of course, I'm experiencing a little bit of discomfort because this is new to me. I don't have the calluses, etc. I do play ukulele already, so that's helpful. But this is bass, the strings are bigger, they're rough. I'm enjoying it, but I do need to work into the physicality of playing it, okay? So I hope this is helpful for you, and I hope that whatever instrument you're learning, you're excited about. If you have any other tips to add, please put them in the comments and help each other. That's why the comment section is there, believe it or not, is to help one another. So put your comments there. If you'd like to reach out to me and connect more, you can do that at patreon.com/Kalani. I do appreciate all the support from the many patrons we have that support this channel and my work in general. Thanks for being here. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell before you leave. I'm Kalani. This is World Drum Club. I'll see you guys soon.